Hi, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go again. My name is Eric A. Kaminsky, FM Ederson. This is the third part of a four-part series that I'm going to present. I may add a fifth one, and that depends on whether I will say something in this interview or monologue, whether I will be able to fit everything into the agenda. Today, I would like to talk about prosecutors and prosecution. And I'd like to remind you that this is, today is the 10th of August, and it's about 5:49 p.m. on this Thursday. Prosecutions and prosecutors in Poland, the whole issue concerns is pertaining to Poland. I'll tell you a story, my story that I've experienced in Poland as far as the prosecution and prosecutors come into play. As you know from the other episodes, I'm litigating a bank that stole my money. The scumbag PKOSA that stole my money in 4 different methods. There's a way of conducting yourself. There's a code of conduct. Supposedly every citizen of every country, in civilized country I'm talking about, not like the third world countries, not the third world countries, but the civilized countries where a citizen is obligated to report a crime. You're supposed to, when you see a crime, misdemeanor, even that, misdemeanor, you report it to the correct officials, like the police, the prosecution's office. You're trying to prevent crime, okay? That's the obligation of every citizen. So as a citizen, whatever the country, I'm a U.S. citizen, and I had my money stolen, I considered this as a crime, so I went to a prosecutor's office to talk about my problem. They invited me to the office, of course, and started asking me of what was going on. I gave the testimony, the whole testimony of how the bank was stealing my money. I had to answer some questions, of course. The prosecutor jotted it all down. He put it all down on paper and everything. I think the whole thing took about an hour. So I was kind of glad, that I gave all the testimony and all the proof. It wasn't really proof at that time, not even evidence, but in my own words, I explained how the bank was stealing my money. There's a certain article in the penalty code that fits exactly what I said, what I conveyed to the prosecutor. So I went out of the office and I was glad, and I thought that they were going to take some action, against the bank. And suddenly, there was nothing done. It was nothing done because 4 days later, I get a letter saying that the whole thing was remitted. My testimony, the whole thing was remitted. That means my testimony didn't matter. The whole case didn't have any value anymore. It was just nullified. It was gone. Thrown away and nullified and rejected. Completely rejected. I for that matter, I started thinking, there's no grounds, they didn't explain exactly why they did that. So it was just like, it was a contradictory explanation of why they rejected the whole issue. So I went to the office, a couple days later with the letter of rejection, and I talked to a prosecutor, another prosecutor. There was like a main general prosecutor in that office. And I asked the lady, there was a lady, And I said, why, what happened here? How could you make a decision in 4 days, not even looking just a little bit into my case of what I wanted to provide you with? I wanted to provide them with the proof, the evidence that I had against the bank. Well, the lady said, in a very, I was nervous too, but she was more nervous than I was, She says, well, why are you asking me this question? Why are you, bothering me here and things like that? And I said, no, I'm not bothering you. I just want, I want the explanation of why you rejected my complaint against the bank. All the testimony was just like an hour was wasted. I wasted the time, I wasted the paper, you wasted the time, you wasted the paper, and and the lady says, I just decided that upon your case, that it has no grounds. I said no grounds. So can you explain to me the basis of the rejection? She couldn't do that. And I said, even if you did that, okay, fine, 4 days. How could you do that in 4 days when you have a stack of papers? You have a stack of papers of a format, A4, that's a standard paper, on your desk, and you injected my case between those cases, and you just made a decision in 4 days? How come you didn't look into my case like partially, at least partially, to find out what is going on? Is Eric telling the truth? Maybe there is a crime. There has been a crime committed by the bank. They didn't want to do that at all, okay? Now I have a suspicion of why they did that, exactly what they did. My suspicion is that there are 3 options. Either they got scared of the bank. There are institutions scared of banks in this country, believe it or not. They got bribed, okay? Scared, bribed, or they're just lazy fucks. Or they're just lazy, okay? They don't want to take a hard case. It was a hard case, I mean, a bank, an institution, a few $billion institution. And these guys are going to just go like David against Goliath? I believe they didn't want to take the case because it was very hard. It was difficult to them. Now, they want to work little on a small case, very easy case, and make it big. Now, This is a hard case, This is a hard case. I mean, my lawyer abandoned me. He left me alone. He split. I'm alone, fighting and battling the bank alone. So I started thinking, come on, this is another joke in this country, in Poland. This is another joke. Prosecution and prosecutors are a joke. This is like another cancer that just eaten the fabric of society. They can't do anything when you report a crime. They told me to go to the police. I went to the police. The same thing happened. They rejected my case. They've done nothing. The bank has done nothing. I mean, they didn't even, let's say somebody says, there's a man or a woman lying over there, probably unconscious. Are you going to just ignore it and just walk away, or just going to find out what's going on, Is there a woman or a man unconscious laying down? Maybe he's dying, You find out. If he is, then you call an ambulance. If he's not, then you say, well, somebody lied to you, okay? But those guys didn't even want to look partially, didn't even ask me questions afterwards, Do you have the evidence? I said, I did have the evidence. I wanted to furnish that evidence to them, but they didn't ask for it. Another cancer of society, This is just unbelievable. So what did I do? Okay, Now you got to understand that before I even went to the prosecution's office, I wrote many letters to the bank to give me the money back. They just give me the money back you stole and let's forget the whole thing. They didn't want to do that. So I took them to a court, a conciliatory court. I wanted to make up with those guys, Conciliatory court. We went to court. I took them to court to make up with these guys and have it over with. Just give me the money back and let's forget, I'm going to sign out of your bank and say goodbye to each other and let's forget the whole issue, the whole matter, whatever happened, even if it's bad, let's forget it. Let's forgive and forget. They didn't want to do that. So I went on. Okay, so after the court, I started thinking, no way, I'm going to protest, demonstrate, and picket the bank. Until they took me to court, like I said that in the other episode. This is the third part of the four-part series. If I said that again, I'm reminding. So I took him to the superior court, and I want the retribution. But talking about judicial, I'm sorry, not judicial, oh, right, the judicial system and the courts, prosecution, even lawyers, it's like a clique. It's a clique. They keep together. I knew a lawyer who once was. He was a judge, he was a prosecutor, and after that he was a lawyer, regular lawyer, a defender. I mean, you know the profession in and out. And what do? You communicate with those guys, You actually know the environment, the whole group of people that deal with the same thing, I know the prosecution, I know the judges, I know the lawyers, even the police. They cooperate with what I just said. I've known a lot of people. I've known a lot of people who went through the same thing. I mean, and much more and much larger scale than I did. I mean, they've appealed, they begged the prosecution to take some action against these criminals. The prosecution in Poland is so inefficient, that basically, I could say that's my opinion about them, is that they are lazy. They're basically lazy, I mean, they're bombarded. I know that they're bombarded with lots of entries of people coming to the prosecution's office with all kinds of problems. They report a crime here, misdemeanor there, beating up here, somebody stole here, somebody caused an accident, yeah, I understand that, But the thing is that a prosecutor who is not a prosecutor anymore told me one time on a train when I was riding a train. He said 90% of the people, 90% of what the people submit to the prosecution is thrown away. The same thing with the police. I know a former policeman, he said that 90% of all the calls that they make to the police are thrown away. They're discarded, So the cooperation between the judge, prosecution, and even a lawyer. It's like three musketeers, one for all for one. And they do talk with each other. Now, can you believe that a prosecution will prosecute a lady, and there was a case here like a year or two ago, an old lady stole just a little bit of candy, and I think a candy bar. She was hungry, 70 or 80-year-old, homeless. Prosecution prosecuted that lady, and she went to jail. For a while, at least, she went to jail. It's the contrast, between the people that steal millions and never go to jail. They never go to jail. They're caught but let go. They're at large. They're over there. And that lady, for equivalent of a quarter of a dollar of a candy bar, was put in jail. Now, how can you consider one side to the other? You know, I mean, I just showed you, one side, the lady with a candy bar being in jail, and a scumbag and a scoundrel thief stealing millions. Nothing happens to him. The lady's in jail. Can you see the contrast? I mean, can your mind, be at ease and not say something, not to rebel of what's going on in this country? That's preposterous. That's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. At the same time, you can't. These guys in the judicial system, in prosecution, in prosecutor's office, lawyers, policemen, they have this. They have this. That mind of irrational mind. They think irrationally. This preponderance over everything and everybody. The preponderance, it just elevates them to a high place, and they think they are gods or something. And I mean, they can do this, they can do that. It's just irrational and not just. You can't justify that. A thief that steals millions is free, and a lady that stole a candy bar is in jail. Something rebels inside, doesn't it? Don't you feel that? I mean, I do. At least I do. So, like I said, this is another cancer that has to be cut out. Prosecutors don't do their jobs. They're completely out of reality. They go by the code, they go by the articles, but they don't see the circumstances of how something happened. And I have a lot of remorse towards those guys, that the prosecution did not take any action, while at the same time, while I'm prosecuting the bank, a lot of shit is coming out, what they've done to me. Now, if they took up some action, they'd find out themselves exactly what the bank did to me. But they didn't move a finger. They didn't want to. I mean, make a decision 4 days. Like I said, I can only give you my case here because I have experienced the prosecution, procurators, whatever you call them, too, on my skin. The same thing, here I am, reporting a crime, and nothing is being done about it. Now that's a sorry state of things, It shouldn't be that way. How do we change that? I don't know. I mean, there are too many institutions out here to really, and go ahead and stand against, I'm alone. I care about my own case. I want to finish the case with the bank, and like I said, I go back to the States. But being alone without a lawyer, and no other lawyer wanted to take up my case, that proves something, that they're scared of the bank. I am not. I am not scared of that bank. That bank is going to do something for me in a positive way, okay? And I wrote, like 6 months ago, I wrote another letter to the prosecutor that did not want to pick up this case. I mean, I told them that you guy had some kind of contempt for me, okay? Contempt. I mean, you work, you get your money for what you do, but you don't take up any action. You do not respond correctly There's a crime committed. You've got to do something. Now, Mr. Timmermans, Franz Timmermans, again, I'll call you Tim for short, okay? Mr. Tim. Okay? Now, prosecution and the judge. For example, in these courts, we have no jury. The judge is the sole person that announces a verdict. Just like that prosecutor did, you know. She was the only one. I asked her, did you consult anyone? Did you consult your friends? Your friends, prosecutors? No, I made a decision of my own. I mean, in 4 days? I mean, you can't read 50 pages in 4 days and decide with all the stack of work that you've got on this desk. You can't do that. It's impossible. You can't. It's impossible. You just kind of like flew over my pages and said, "Okay, no, this is not a stupid case," or something like that. You scumbags. You don't want to work. They pay you, you get money, and you don't want to work. She took a decision. She brought that decision in front of me all by herself. It was done only by herself. And the same thing with judges. They are the only person, the only individual who takes the case, looks at it, reads it or not, and decides upon what's to be done next, okay? The verdict. There's no jury. No, there's no precedence, you know. I mean, American courts work on precedence, you know. Something has been done like that before. We go on the precedence, you know. We're gonna go on the precedence. We've seen this before. Let's work on it, okay? Let's work only on that case that has been before, even 100 years ago. Okay? But these guys don't want to work. I don't know what's happening with these guys, okay? And the judicial system, you know, jury, okay? Jury, judicial system, no jury, no consultation with other friends, you know, like colleagues in the same profession. They don't do that. I don't think they do that. You know, I mean, how can just one person decide upon something that really should require, you know, a team, So I want to finish this way again. That when I wrote to this guy, he never responded. You know, why did you not take up that action? He never responded. I feel very, very. You know, hurt. I feel hurt, you know. I mean, that kind of sounds sorrowful, you know. I mean, I'm not sorry for myself, okay? No. It's just I feel this this hole that should be filled up with right information that I can go on. But I can't, you know, because these guys never gave me anything to go on. So I'm kind of like out of vacuum working towards these guys that I think that they work with contempt, you know, with pure contempt, you know. And I believe, Mr. Franz, Tim, that the judges, the lawyers, and the procurators, if you want to call them that way, they are out of order. They are out of order. Something is amiss. Something is just upside down, flipped over, to the point that you just can't redo that back, you know, until you get rid of everything and just plow everything and just see something new. So, Franz, Tim, you are out of order. You can't say anything. Mr. Franz, Tim, whoever you are not in this thing. You are not up to here in this shit that I'm going through. So how can you say, you can't say, you don't know anything. You just don't know anything. You just read a sheet of paper from the EU that you've got in front of your nose, that you got from EU, the Commission or the Parliament. Somebody give you that paper and you've got to read that. You experience that. And then you'll find out exactly what is going on with the judges, corrupt prosecutors. They are corrupt, right down to the bare bone. And the lawyers, which is going to be the next subject, the next episode. Those scumbags, those scoundrels, they work together. It's like mafia, you know. Supposedly a judge cannot talk to a lawyer. And I believe that's not so. They have to communicate somehow. They have to. Okay? It's not allowed, you know, I mean, it's against the law, but they still do it. They do it here. That's how corrupted they are. I never caught any lawyer doing that, I mean, no, but I've heard of other people that they say that they've been like congression, you know. They congressed and they decided upon of what to do with this case, you know. There was collaboration. It was collaboration. So Franz Timmerman, don't say anything anymore of that kind that I hear you on the video. Okay? I heard you talk that you are going to punish Poland. Don't do that. Okay? You can't do that. Okay? Again, I have a lot of remorse. I have a lot of bad feelings. I have a lot of bad thoughts about lawyers, judges, and prosecutors. And to the Polish prosecutors, I have also a few words, okay? Because you so much ignorance, you know, ignored me. You ignored me in every matter, every issue that I presented to you. You ignored me. I gave you all the evidence and all the words and all the sentences and all the circumstances how the bank was stealing my money, and you did nothing about it. Why are you like that, Polish prosecutors? You should be put in jail too and stay there. So the last words to you, Polish prosecutors, please, fuck yourselves. Now I can take a piss.